Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Embodied Divinity. I have today a special guest, Sophia Pearl, the human embodiment of Sophia Christ consciousness, doing work within this scope of reality. Today, we explore all topics spirituality and embodiment, and the beautiful dance between human and spirit. You can find all the links to work with this beautiful being, Sophia Pearl, below this episode. I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be back with you on the Embodied Divinity Podcast. You just heard all about our amazing guest, Sophia Pearl, sitting in front of me today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited.
Me too. So I'm going to start you off with my signature question. How did you become the being sitting in front of us today?
I don't know. It was like a surprise one day. Well, I guess it's necessary to sort of explain that growing up, I grew up in like a very religious household. It was Lutheran and like no room for error, no room for freedom of thought or freedom of being, anything like that. All thoughts were even regulated. And so just very confined, very constricted. And lots of trauma and lots of healing that I had to process. And so one day I had gotten to a point where I was ready to do a heart opening and work with the energy of the Mother Mary, which for me was very like I was at a point where I was like ex-nay on all things Christianity sounding, anything like that. I had so many blocks and so much anger against, you know, sort of big name institutional spirituality that I wasn't really ready to enter into a relationship with any member of that pantheon. And but I was led to do this heart opening with Mother Mary and to accept that maybe there was something that was missing in my understanding of all of that. And in receiving her and allowing her to come into my heart and do this heart opening, I released so much of that intense anger against the patriarchal institution and just found this deep well, this beautiful temple within my heart. And this meditation took me on a journey that lasted for hours and hours. And in its culmination, in this temple of my heart, there's this being sitting there on a throne. She's wearing beautiful robes and she's like adorned in light, and she had a crown and just everything was sumptuous, and she was in this beautiful sexuality and um just radiance of being and like really the best of the universe, if that makes sense, right? And in celebration of those things, and she's sitting here and she's in my heart temple and she says, Megan, I am you. And I'm like, okay. What? Who are you? I don't know who you are. Well, I'm Sophia. And I remember I had these blocks, right? I had no idea what Sophia was, who Sophia was, what that name meant. I like, aside from hearing it on a human level, my cousin Sophia or whatever, I didn't have any context for what Sophia was. And so I'm there and I'm at her feet and I'm like, okay. You mean, okay, like whatever, sure, yeah, great. And she's like, no, no, truly, I am you. You are my body. My being is here within you. You are my vessel. And anyway, it was a lot. Um, it was such a staggering amount of energy and amount to own. And life had led me through a couple of instances of leadership where I was shown that there was some sort of purpose to this body, to this being, in terms of leadership, in terms of not just through teaching, as we were talking about earlier, but crazy things. Someday I'll have more time and context to share all of that. But just these weird things where it was like, why me? Why am I this person that you're paying attention to right now? Like, I'm not special. And Sophia was like, no, you are my mouthpiece, you are my vessel, my being is through you. And so that was a lot. That was how I came to be this being, how Megan became Sophia. And it's an ongoing process of always um honoring the human, honoring the human journey and the human experience, the reality of this dimension, and the suffering that's here, and the experience that's meant to be fulfilled within this place, but at the same time being present, being source here in this moment through this body, which is such a gift and so exciting. So that's my story.
It's so beautiful. There are so many moments that I could feel the emotions just coming through me because of such a sacred experience. And your description at the end of that balance between human and divinity is what this podcast is all about. And it's why I'm so happy to have you here. And for a lot of my community, I think it would be really beautiful for you to start by explaining a little bit. So, you are the human embodiment of Sophia Christ consciousness. So, your human name is Megan, but you are the embodiment of this Sophia and really going by Sophia more and more. Can you explain this to us, like what it means and how it feels?
It feels expansive.
Mm.
So yeah, but it's taken a lot of years to transition and to allow for, on the human level, to allow the space to be spirit, because there's always that attachment to the human identity,
Mm.
right? And still now I'm Megan, in person. My family and friends understand, like, this is just Megan. Right? But in my work, and increasingly with some of my friends, it's just Sophia now, Sophia Pearl. And Sophia Pearl specifically is the other. I guess there was two parts of this process, and the other part of it was that I was working with an embodiment of pure love energy in the form of Jesus, and we journeyed together, and he gave me this ball of light. And at the time, I was like, no, that's okay. You can have it. I actually tried to reject this beautiful ball of light from Jesus. And he's like, no, this is yours. This is your mission. This is your work. And it was a pearl. And this pearl was a portal. And I came to learn later on that the name Megan actually means pearl in Greek. And Sophia Pearl is the portal, or a portal through which we can step through to come into our alignment, our truth, the knowledge of our divinity, and our awakening and rebirth into the new earth here in this plane. But to own that as well, to own Pearl is a little easier, right? But to own Sophia and to allow the name Sophia to be attached to the body, it's a lot of shedding that the ego has had to do. So many ego deaths, so much, um, so much inner, working through healing, fighting with oneself, all of these aspects, and trying to bring all those parts on board and going in the same direction. It's been fun.
It's such a beautiful journey. I love that you mentioned your journey with Christ. So I have this picture of, and you can see this orb, and I keep this picture of um, of this on my wall because my own experience of channeling an embodiment of the Christ consciousness came from a very similar experience with a ball of light. And the name I was given was agape, of just like this beautiful channel of pure love. And I've noticed, number one, with myself, but also with this mass awakening that's been occurring, is it's this very interesting push and pull, I feel like, that people are experiencing of owning their divinity, and it can feel almost awkward sometimes. It's like the ego almost comes in and is like making us feel cringe about our own spirituality. And does that make sense to you? How would you say you've navigated the dichotomy and the ownership of both, and really owning that and being authentically you in both realms?
It's just been a process. It's just been a process of the ego, like having to accept it. And moving through that discomfort. And it's been a long and slow process, definitely. But I mean, a week ago I started doing these Facebook lives at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. And I literally roll out of bed and I come and I do a little live. Like, my hair is all greasy. I mean, you can't, it looks the same as it does right now, but like in the mornings, it's all greasy and gross. Like I'm in my pajamas practically. I'm curled up with like a mug of coffee. And these are the first words I'm speaking in the morning. But I feel that to just be as raw and be as human as possible. Um, and no matter what, to just be showing up, right, to allow that love to flow through the vessel. And um it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what the body looks like or what the image looks like or how greasy my hair is or how cringe I am. It's the work that's important. It's what did I read recently? And this was helpful because I had to get over myself in this particular instance where this message came up. It said, it's not the messenger that's important, it's the message.
Yeah.
So yes, we can be cringe all day long. Absolutely, the ego can judge and be all awkwarded out by how we're showing up and what we're looking like. But I've almost decided to just embrace it and to be as awful as possible because, like, of course, we can criticize that all day long. If I'm trying, you know, then my ego is it like my ego is getting into the message while I'm giving it, right? But if I just show up as I am and let the message be what it is, regardless of what's going on here, then it's easier. But
It's so, I love the way that our stories kind of swirl together too, because like 2 years ago, I had like, and anyone listening, I'm not against like glamming yourself up. Go for it. Like, I know that it makes people feel so good at times, but 2 years ago, I had the long blonde hair, the extensions. I always had my nails done. I always had red lipstick, makeup on. And the last 2 years, I haven't worn makeup one single day. I haven't had my nails done. And for me, it was really hard because I had this story in middle school of being called like freckle face and ugly, and like really tried to change my image, right? And I had this experience in meditation of just like seeing myself as this pure vessel of light and being able to show up authentically that way. And I noticed the moment I stopped and got over myself, the message was so crystal clear, and
mm,
everything kind of shifted. And I think that's one of the big things too happening right now, is seeing all the ways that we kind of stay away from our full embodiment because we're so invested in the human niceties. Even when we speak to people, it's like the niceties, and the not being willing to just speak what's here regardless of how it's perceived. Would you say
mhm.
that, as you, I mean, you were a professor, you were teaching a lot of like law, legal matters, right? You had this probably really bigger ego identity that was attached to the education system. So how did you, like, I love in your description and the questions I ask you, you said the dance between like divine and human. How did you really find like more ease accepting and embracing yourself? Because it can be, there's a lot of judgy people out there.
There are so many. Um, and my timeline actually was such that I got very ill, and I stepped back from teaching to convalesce. And it was during that time that my moment happened, and I didn't go back. So the ego, of course, it is institutionalism, right? And I remember my former boss telling me optics are everything. Just it was it was yeah, it was pretty suffocating. And like even at the time where I was there and I was already like, we'll call it spiritual. I was already, on this journey. I had been for so long, although not in its fullest form yet. But yeah, it was already clearly not aligned for me and my body at that point. And I had like the bleach blonde and crazy makeup all the time, and I was in such good physical shape, like, right, all of these beautiful designer clothes, blah blah blah, and yeah, and then when I took the time for my body and I had my experience, I ended up shaving my head and
Wow, really?
yeah, just got rid of all of the hair dye and everything, and I don't know. I mean, I think our need to show up looking a certain way often, those sort of sacral wounds of worthiness and, trying to fulfill societal expectations so that we have value on some level, right? Um, and absolutely, all day long, we should be able to celebrate all the ways that we can manipulate our appearance. And you feel good with your blonde hair, then have your hair be blonde and beautiful, and absolutely, and spirit loves that too, loves to play dress up and to feel good in the bodysuit. But yeah, as long as it's a place from love and intention, and not a place from fear or trying to be something, right? Yeah.
I love the way you say that. And I feel like that's how we get to do everything is from a place of love and enoughness and deservingness rather than running away from anything. So, what, in your experience, as you kind of embody this Sophia Christ consciousness, how do you, what would you say your role or purpose is in this lifetime, and why did this come to you, and how do you use it?
Okay. Start role and purpose in this lifetime is to lead people back to themselves, to remind everyone that we are no longer enslaved, right? We've been taught these patterns and our brain is so hardwired in them, but there is nothing actually keeping us in those patterns anymore than our programming, and so we have the power to completely transform everything, everything. Like, and we have the will to do so. Source has given us free will as creator beings. So anything that we need to change or that we need to bring in is within our capacity to do so. So my purpose here now is to remind humanity of this, and to free us from ourselves, right? Yeah.
Mm.
And just in this continual reminder, because the need for that continual reminder is constant as well.
Yeah. It's
Um
really beautiful work, and I feel like that's kind of why we're here, is that the remembering of all that we are, and letting all of the illusions of separation and limitation fall away.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what was the second part of that question? Purpose, reason? No,
And
I don't remember.
neither do I, but I'm just gonna allow it to come through. I believe it was something like how you utilize this energy as it moves through you, like, like that Christ consciousness is such a big energy. How do you in your everyday waking reality utilize it as it moves through you, as it is you?
This is something that is my moment by moment kind of thing that I need to be reminded of. Um, it's not the me, it's not Megan who is in any way piloting this ship. And whenever Megan tries, it's working against the energy that spirit's trying to put out into the world. So I have a tendency to get into my head about um, what is the action I should be taking right now. Like, I should be hustling. I always have this feeling I'm supposed to be hustling, but that's an imprint in the body. That's spirit's got it all laid out.
Yep.
So sometimes the thing I'm supposed to be doing is napping. Like, stop hustling. Um yeah, it's being present is the mission. And the work is going to just flow from presence.
I know in my experience, my for the last 2 years, the embodiment process for me has been living from that place of highest self, right? In each moment, finding the reverence and the sacredness of each moment. And like you said, there's this part that I think comes through your Megan. For me, it's ego, and I'm assuming when you talk about Megan, you're talking about this kind of egoic human personality that's very earthbound, right?
Yeah.
So, um, moving from there, I think the biggest thing that I've seen with my own clients, with my own personal experience, is we do have this entire external world and collective consciousness that's constantly saying, well, how will you pay your bills? How will you achieve anything? How will you be successful? Of course, these are very like three-dimensional ways of thinking in terms of success and achievement. How have you quieted that voice so that as you're being an embodiment, being in the present moment, you're not being swept away by that? You shouldn't be napping right now. You're so lazy, or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
So I'm going to answer this two ways. I'm going to start with what it feels like in the moment, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the journey to get to that. Okay. So in the moment when thoughts come up, because scarcity, hardcore, like that energy is a big one, right? Um, so let's say I have to make a financial decision. My brain, the monkey brain, starts to get into those fears, into what's the number in my bank account right now? Like, can we afford blah blah blah? Is this bill covered? I'm trying to get myself into it so I can describe it a little bit better. But what happens is I pay attention to the sensation in my body when my mind starts going somewhere uncomfortable, or technically it's a comfortable place for the mind, but for spirit it's really uncomfortable, right? So in spiritual awareness, I try to feel where that sensation is in my body, and then just look at the sensation, just feel it. It comes up for me right here. So when I acknowledge, hey scarcity, I feel you in my body, the mind is like, oh, I don't need to do this loop anymore, because this is seen, this energy is being looked at by source, by spirit. Like, this is being nurtured, this is being cared for. And then I will do something, I'll take an action, like massage, like touch or yoga, or snuggling my little girl, just something that will remind this energy that, it can be released and it can be set free. And really giving the mind its love and its credit, and then just like, okay, thank you. I'm going to work with the body now and in presence. Um, and as much as possible, reminding the mind that we are spirit here. We're all three of us, the body, the mind, the spirit. We're all three of us working together. We got this. We can co-collaborate, right? Um, and then everything's, I don't want to be like, oh, it's all great, but like then we can remember our joy, and we can, remember the love for this piece of ourselves that's uncomfortable, and bring healing to it, and bring fuller meaning into, the lives of the people we love, and shape more of this reality into the new earth. So that's like in the present moment how I kind of, my process, how I got there though. It's been a challenge, right? The human, um we have so much trauma, so many thought imprints that we're so attached to. It's hard to even, like on the human side, it's hard to know, like, let's say you're in a state of anger, and, you know, we're spiritual beings, but we're angry. And so we think that we're justified in being angry and acting from that anger and causing destruction from that anger when we're still in our egos. And so we're still just breaking things. We're still perpetuating lower vibrations, right? And but the ego has such a hard time knowing that it is being ego. Such a hard time seeing itself, right? It can't really. And so I feel like it's been a lot of years of process of working through. There was I had illness in my body that I've had, the majority of my life, which has finally left my body in its various forms. And then I think my journey really followed the chakras very beautifully. And so it was, releasing. It was a sacral illness. So healing from that really helped to clear and like bring spirit all the way down that far in the body. And then I got stuck at the root chakra until I worked through the root chakra energy for quite a while. And then it was finally able to ground. So the long journey is just really like giving love to all of our parts every day, and trusting that spirit is here to heal us. We are all of us, every single human being is a vessel for source, is a vessel for pure love, pure light. And um, trusting in that truth within ourselves will help source to help us clear out what's hurting.
I think it's such a powerful journey of that, living from that deep spiritual awareness, and you're living everyday reality and coming back to presence. And it's really easy to sum it up, right? And it's a totally different lived experience. So I love the way that you created such a beautiful dialogue around your process and the different systems and tools you use to get there. So before we wrap up this beautiful conversation, I do want to kind of go into one other aspect, and something you brought up is like family and relationships. So how has it been for you? I think it's really easy to embody our Christ consciousness, to embody that higher frequency when we're isolated, right? Or when we're just communicating through screens. And for me, like, it's really easy to channel every morning when it's just me in the room. How do you keep that embodiment um, in your other human relationships? And do you let yourself be seen, or do you kind of like step out of it in certain relationships? Just tell us all about navigating relationships from your perspective.
I love that. That's such a good point. That is so much easier to be embodied when you're alone. That's absolutely true. Um, I think I shine brighter among the people like in person, the people who know who I am.
Mhm.
Um,
Would
and
you say
then
that's a lot of people? Like, have you really, or would you say there's a very tight knit circle of people who really know all of who you are?
oh, I don't hide from anyone anymore. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have a neighbor who doesn't know who I am. No, generally speaking, I try to um the people who know me, generally they know who I am. Meeting me the first time, I may not share that because, not everybody is ready to uh allow some wounds are so deep, right, that they're still pushing back against love.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I just try to sort of meet them where they're able to receive. But yeah, generally speaking, I show up. Where it's interesting is in like my partner came to me, it like hilariously, I had been calling in who's my person, who am I supposed to walk through this life with, um and he showed up immediately after I had the Sophia experience,
Mhm.
and he was the first person I told, like the day I met him. And he was like, okay, cool. And then when we had our first kiss, like Sophia came to me and she showed me my shape as Megan is the circle. And then I kissed my partner and his shape formed the cross part of it.
Wow.
And so together it was the reunification of, both parts of Sophia, the masculine and the feminine. And what I love though is that my partner is like still so very human, so human. And his pineal gland is somewhat decalcified, but he doesn't live as spirit. He still lives as human. And what I love about that is that it grounds me
Mm.
here,
Yeah.
and it keeps me connected so profoundly to what the human experience is. And sometimes he gets my ego to take over, and that's kind of fun in a way because we get to be in that dance. But there's so much connection in his energy, like to the Templar energy. And so we're living all of these like um past lives and timelines and all of these things simultaneously in each other's energy and each other's space at the same time. So it's just this rich little game. And so yeah, I don't know. I get to play human while I'm with him, but I also get to be myself in my authenticity at the same time. It's kind of cool.
That's a beautiful description, and I think like I've heard so many words and phrases that give off the idea that being human is bad when you're the spiritual being, and like it's and my biggest message, like that's literally why we're here. We're here to have the human experience. Like we've had this
Exactly.
consciousness experience every other dimension. So I love that you're so willing to be human in those moments, and that it's all part of your authentic self, because when we're trying so hard to be a certain way, it just doesn't work. And for me, my own like higher consciousness is comes through like the biggest and brightest in some of those human moments, because it's like this powerful teaching and awareness, right, of an
Mm.
experience I've never got to have before. So I love that. So today's conversation has just been so enlightening and just fun to engage in. I'd love for you to share with my community the ways that they can work with you, the offerings that you have in using these beautiful gifts you have with people.
I love that. Okay, yay. So, um, Okay, first of all, you can't see this, can you?
Oh,
There
yes,
we
now I
go.
can. Yay.
Yay. There is a book called the Sophia Pearl Oracle Book, and it is a book of messages from Sophia Christ consciousness that works so that you have a tool on hand that you can grab and you can open it up to the page randomly or however you want to read it. And wherever you land is the message that is intended for you in that moment to remind you of your divinity, bring you back to the source within. Um, so this is available on Amazon. We can do links and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, valuable tool. There will be more volumes coming out later in the year and fun things. I have an offering called Stepping into Source. Stepping into Source is sort of a self-guided adventure into the kind of primal energies of Source. So, like pure love. What does pure universal love feel like? And then, excuse me, we journey and we meditate and we unlock pure love within ourselves. There's things like that, learning about the divine masculine, the divine feminine, what abundance means from Source's perspective, what ego means from Source's perspective, and just it's bringing those energies kind of in their purity, but in a format that's more digestible on the human level. And we talk about these things, we meditate about them, and then we integrate about them. And there's journaling and yeah, so it's a nice little package. I actually just released it like last week. So
Yay.
that's exciting. Um there's the opportunity to work with me one-on-one. That's available on my website. Um and there is a new offer that's going to be coming in March called The Universe is Your Divine Oyster.
Mm.
And this is an offer that I've run for many years now. And it is, oh, it's crazy wonderful. Basically, what we do is we bring humanity from human level and we have creation and we use the energy of the aeons of first creation and we bring all of this together and connect so that by the end of this process, the the spirit within each one of us comes into their own aeon level, and we become aeons of the new universe together. So there's so much that I could share about that that particular process, but I'm gonna if you follow me on Facebook, if you sign up for my newsletter, thesophiapearl.com will lead you to all of those things. Then I invite you to definitely explore deeper into the universe as your divine oyster. It is not for the faint of heart. It is a 1.5 year long process.
Wow.
It is so thorough and so intense and so life changing. But yeah, that offer.
So many
That's what
beautiful gifts. I'm so excited. I love it. And you guys, like I said in the intro, you can find all of the links to everything that she just talked about, including her social media links below wherever you're watching or listening to this. I highly recommend following her on all of the socials and checking out her offerings. I'm sure you felt the beautiful sacred energy present here today. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so, yeah, so delightful.
Really has. And everybody listening, thank you, thank you. As always, breathe deep and plan on miracles. See you next time.